I used to have crippling public speaking fear. I mean, like running from the room level of anxiety. And yet, this same person has now presented to Nike executives, has given presentations to entire companies of 300 people with no problems. This was a past life wound that had been controlling my life for decades. If you are dealing with some sort of fear that is overwhelming you, that this might be a past life wound for you as well. And I'm going to give you a framework to help you work through it. That as I look back on my story, this was the framework of how I managed to get through it, to heal it, and to get to a place where I can talk to people without having a complete meltdown. You ready? Let's dig in. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be an actress. I was an extrovert. I liked to talk a lot. I liked having a lot of attention on me. And so I had big dreams about becoming this famous actress when I grew up. I ended up studying at a high school that specialized in performing arts. And then I went off to college. I went to a top school in the United States that I had to audition to get into to study acting. A little bit of anxiety started to creep in here or there, a little bit of self-consciousness, but no big deal. Nothing that was going to stop me from living my life. Then I got cut from the program. They cut about half of their students. Interestingly, already I knew at that point that maybe acting wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. I had a voice inside me that said that this was not where I belonged. I wasn't ready to let go of it yet because after all, I had been passionate about acting for my entire life. So ended up leaving that school. I went to Seattle and I started auditioning. And this is when the public speaking anxiety started to ramp up in a big way. When I started to get panicked before I would go into an audition. Interestingly, it was specifically the auditions where I had to be by myself, that I had to stand up on stage and audition for the auditors who were judging me. But this was normal, right? People get anxiety in auditions. I continued to just try to figure out different techniques. I would listen to music. I would do whatever I could think of to get myself through the audition until eventually I decided to leave acting, partly because I could tell it wasn't in alignment with whatever it was my soul's purpose was, but also this anxiety made it hard. It really took my confidence from me when I couldn't show up the way that I knew I authentically could if I was feeling settled in myself. But it took me some years and exploration to kind of be able to really get this sense of what my purpose was. And that's when I discovered life coaching. Now, life coaching, the terminology didn't really sit with me, but it was the closest thing that I could come to what it was that I was here to do. So I was like, that's it. I'm a life coach. Let's get going. I got my degree in psychology. I quit my job to follow this path to be a life coach. Yes, I completely quit it. I found a certification program. I went and did that. I was like, yes, this is it. I'm alive. I was like the happiest I'd ever been in my life until I had my very first client. I had somebody who contacted me and I needed to call her back. And welcome to the worst weekend of my life. I could not call her back. I was in a life or death panic. I spent the entire weekend curled up on the couch in the fetal position in a complete and utter devastated panic because I had quit my job to become a life coach. This was my purpose. And yet I couldn't even call somebody back on the phone. Something escalated at that moment that shaped my life for the next several years. I did some past life regressions to try to figure out the different reasons behind my life struggles and experiences. And so in one past life regression, I discovered that I was a woman in the south of Spain, a Jewish woman who was teaching spirituality to folks. This was during the Inquisition when it was illegal to be Jewish. It was not well thought of if you were actually teaching Judaism because the Spanish crown saw this as heresy. So in this past life that I went through, I was standing in front of a group of people who passed judgment on me. You see the connection there? It did not go well for me. I ended up being found guilty and executed. Clearly not a happy life story, and one that I experienced some trauma that I was not able to heal in that lifetime. So that trauma stayed with me, that fear of being judged, that if I am sharing spiritual truth that I'm going to get judged and tortured and killed, that was still in my energy field. When I now am like, hey, I'm going to be a life coach. Let's go back to doing something that was for me very anchored in spirituality. That past life wound got turned up. So clearly this was part of my life plan to put myself in situations that would activate this fear so that I could finally move through it and release it. Okay, so let's go back to the story. There I am, curled up in the fetal position, knowing that I have a coaching client that's waiting to hear back from me. I'm not proud of this, but again, this explains why people make these choices. We're all doing our best in our life, and whatever options we have that are going to help us through a moment, we're going to take it until we find higher level options. Well, in this case, it was a lower frequency option, in which case I took a shot of vodka in order to be able to call this person back. It was the only time I did that, but it did manage to get me out of that terror spot and move forward in my life. So I can't judge it too hard. I'm just glad it wasn't something that continued on from there. So from that moment on, something unlocked in me, and not in a good way. It began to permeate all aspects of my life. I continued to life coaching, and every time I would have a client, I would be a hot mess. I would be in full panic mode trying to get through the moment. It was at that point I learned energy work. I was trained in energy work, and I found that working with energy helped me tremendously. So no more vodka. Instead, aura healings. I found that when I had a client that came in, if I started things off doing an energy healing, I felt so much more calm and centered in myself. That is what helped me get through my first few years of life coaching. As life coaching was going along, I decided I wanted to get a part-time job. There was something in me that felt like I needed to get back into the corporate world and to get a few different skills. So I started doing interviews. Well, the interviews were now ramped up a level. I think my favorite memory is when I was interviewing for a community manager role with Airbnb. And the person I was interviewing with was like, hey, why don't we meet at this coffee shop? I was like, that sounds great. We're sitting there in the coffee shop, and the full-on panic comes on. Your heart's beating. You feel like you've got ice in your veins, and yet at the same time, your palms are like puddles of water. You feel like you are going to explode, and words aren't going to come out of your mouth, and like you're going to have a total breakdown. And I got to the point where I just became terrified of just the physical sensation itself. I just said, excuse me, and I got up and I went to the bathroom in the middle of the interview. So not a surprise, I did not get that job, but I did get a part-time job working in HR. And that was interesting because I'd always been a really social person that would go around and chat with everybody, and I really was withdrawn. I would be there just talking to you, and the panic would start to come up. This panic experience continued to get louder and louder and louder. Something had its grip on me, and I knew it was only going to get worse, and I had to face it. So at this point of the story, let me introduce you to the first step of the framework, and that is acceptance. To accept whatever way this trauma from a past life or current life is showing up in you right now. When things need to be healed in your life, they will keep on finding situations where they show up to get attention. And if you don't give it attention, it's going to get louder and louder and louder. So you will continue to be exposed to triggers until you deal with it. So step one, acceptance. Accept the situation that you find yourself in and that you are going to need to deal with it, and it isn't going to go away. One of the things I had learned about how best to deal with anxiety is through exposure therapy, meaning walking through the fire. At least that's what I like to call it, meaning you actually go through and have to subject yourself to whatever it is you're afraid of in small doses, and then get bigger and bigger and bigger so that you realize that everything is okay. So I knew I needed to walk into the fire to heal this. And that if I didn't, it was going to stay with me, get worse through this life, rip my purpose from my hands, and was going to cause me to have to deal with this again in another life. Because if you don't heal it in this life, it's just going to show up next time around. So I was ready to step into action. But for any of you who deal with intense level of fear, you know That the idea about just stepping into action sounds lovely, but it's a lot harder than it sounds. So that brings us to the second step of the framework, which is assistance. You do not have to do this alone. It's natural for us to find tools or help to get us through these situations. So already in my journey, I had used the tool of alcohol. Don't recommend that. Energy work, movement. That was part of me, like getting up and leaving the room. I found that as I moved around, that really helped me a lot. And of course, therapy is a wonderful tool to use to get through anxiety, or medication if that's particularly your angle. In my case at this point, I decided to go to Toastmasters, a global group all over the world where they get together and they practice public speaking. I felt like here was going to be a safe space. They're going to be there to support me. So I found a local Toastmasters chapter and I joined it. By my second month, there was a contest that this Toastmasters club and clubs across the state were having for table topics, which is where you speak for like 3 to 5 minutes. They give you a question and you just talk off the cuff. It's something that naturally I'm really good at. In this moment in time, did not want to do. So when they were like, hey, Jillian, you should be a part of this contest, I was like, no, thank you. I am good. And then the day came and one of the guys was like, you're going to participate in this contest. So I was like, okay, fine. Well, the number I got was number 14, was the very last one. Now, this is important because you were kept in a room, and so you couldn't watch everybody perform. One by one, a person left the room and a person left the room and a person left the room until it was me. And I'm in the room by myself and they come and get me. And they're like, Jillian, come on out. So I went out there, I answered their little question. They start to read off the winners, and who wins? Me. I won the contest. Why is that a bad thing, you think? Like, hey, Jillian, you won a contest. Isn't that nice? The winner got to go to the next level where you competed against winners from other different Toastmaster groups. So I go and I'm freaking out and I'm panicking and I'm in the reading room and I'm like, I'm going to win this one too. I don't want to win it. And I go out there, they asked me the question, and then it came to the end and I won. I did not want to win, but I won that contest, which then meant I had to go to the next level. And it happens all over again until I get to the point where, guess what? I got to go to state. I kept on winning these contests that I did not want to win. And I got up to the state level where I had to go to the state convention. Now remember, I had been in Toastmasters for like 2 months, 3 months. And I'm performing on the state level stage with people that have been doing Toastmasters for 10 years. So I had this moment where I was like, this story I've been telling myself and wrapping myself up in about not being able to speak publicly isn't true. It was like this moment from the universe that was like, Jillian, you don't have a problem. Stop pretending like you do. And at that moment, it was like a fever broke in my life. All of a sudden, all this anxiety that had been popping up in these one-on-one conversations just washed away because I changed my story of who I was and I let go of it defining me. So that is why it's so critical to take the third step in this framework, which is action. Your soul is calling you to take action on this. My soul was calling me to take action on this. You need to see that you will survive and that you are okay, even if it's still kind of a hot mess of an experience. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be something that you accept and move into so that you can move through it. But one piece of that is to make sure you do it in bite-sized pieces. So even for me, the contest, right, went from level to level to level to level. What can you take action on in a way that is small and is a little scary, but doesn't make you feel like you need to curl up on the couch or drink vodka? What is it that you can do that helps you wade into the fear that you can see, okay, I'm still alive. I'm still alive. It's still okay. So now that didn't mean it went away completely, but it did go from like 100 to 50. So it got me to the place where I was no longer paralyzed, where now it would show up in small areas like interviews, like presenting in front of people. And then I could kind of continue to work on that in a way that was a lot easier and a lot more comfortable, where I was able to bring in more tools. Like, for example, at this point, now that I had finally faced the fear, the universe decided to gift me with knowledge of something called propranolol, which is specifically for public speaking. That's when I really began working on the fourth step of the framework, which is attention. Where you place your thoughts is your most powerful tool. So I began to realize I need to take control over where I place my attention, because where I'm placing my attention, things will grow. I ended up leaving life coaching. I left it for a time period because I really wanted to get deep into corporate world. So as I found myself in there were a lot more opportunities for me to be presenting. And it was through this experience, as I grew my HR career, that I found myself presenting on a monthly basis to the executives at Nike, at the Jordan brand. At this point, it was calling me to really step into my power. I needed to show up as a powerful person in a situation where I was going to be judged by a lot of people. When you run HR, it's not just about you, the person, you are wearing a role. So I, in that role, really said, okay, my opportunity here is to be in a place of power. It was in that role that I feel like I got the final pieces of that lesson. Here I was presenting. I didn't have the anxiety, even though I was presenting to the entire company. I felt confident. I felt invigorated after I presented. And I felt like I was showing up as myself and who I was. So this brings us to the fifth step of our framework, which is about aligning with your power, aligning with your true self. It's about changing the story where this fear is so much bigger than you to find out that you are actually so much bigger than the fear. So that alignment process actually started back when I won that competition and I began to change my story. But it took me all of that time to go through experience where I fine-tuned and kept on getting examples that could show up and show me, you are this person who is powerful. So with that job and going through that experience and finally sitting in my power, I was allowed to graduate from that life lesson and move on to my next opportunity. So here we are. I am back again, doing my purpose, helping people navigate their life lessons and their life challenges and sharing spiritual wisdom so that you can have the wonderful, beautiful life that you deserve. This time I'm not crippled by panic and anxiety. Now that doesn't mean that, when I hit the record button on these videos, doesn't mean I don't have my moments, but I also know that it's all going to be okay and that this is what I'm here for. So what fear has been running your life? Are you ready to overcome it? If so, here are your action items. First, we're going to ask you to work on framework number 1, which I think that you're doing because you're watching this video. So getting to that mode of accepting that this is a situation that you're in and that you can do something about it. It doesn't have to run your life. Step number 2 of the framework, which is assistance. So your action item is to come up with 3 to 5 ideas about ways that you can get assistance through this fear. And then I want you to explore 1 or 2 of those options. Just explore, just reach out, just find out if this will be something that could be useful to you. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be forward moving. And if you are curious, if your current struggles and fears are from a past life, I did a video all about that. How to figure out if your current struggles are from a past life and what to do about it. And in this one, I'm not asking you to walk through the fear. I actually propose a solution that is much more relaxing and enjoyable to overcome those struggles without having to walk into the fire. Let me know how you do on those action items, and I'll see you next time. Bye.